Welcome back. This is Ananda Leon, and this is my dad, Ruben Leon from Levil Aviation. And this is our last episode on the iLevil AP tutorial. So far, we installed trim tabs. We set up the servo direction. We tested the responsiveness of the trim tabs. And now we're gonna fine-tune the autopilot.
Well, we're gonna hook it up and fine-tune it, so we're gonna actually fly with the autopilot.
So before we do that, on the ground, there's some settings. Basically, the procedure is first we test wing leveling capabilities, and then we test heading following capabilities, and then we test altitude following capabilities. Okay, so for the wing leveling test capabilities, the heading and the altitude are disabled.
Exactly.
Then we enable heading, and then we enable altitude, and by that point we have full functionality and we're ready.
Okay.
So we're gonna start with wing leveling, like on the ground.
Well, we have to set it up on the ground, so we make sure we have everything.
Yes.
So let's.
So we have our iLevil connected.
Exactly.
I have my iPad connected to the iLevil. Basically, you would go to Settings, Wi-Fi, and connect to the iLevil AP, or it might say iLevil and some numbers, which is your serial number for your iLevil. Once you do that, then we open the Levil Aviation app. And I have enabled my autopilot on the right and my altimeter setting on the bottom. We're gonna go to settings.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. And we go to advanced. And now we're showing some roll parameters and pitch parameters and heading and altitude. And that's it. So for the wing leveler.
So we have to put some parameters in zero.
Right.
Okay.
Explain to me what's, I'm seeing a roll K proportional. What's that?
Well, actually, what this is how much would the trim tab move per movement of the airplane. Some airplanes you will have to move a little bit, and that's enough to control the airplane. Some airplanes you have to move more. So at this point, we have to tell the iLevil autopilot how much should it be. Every degree that the airplane moves, it has to be compensated by so many degrees on the trim tab. Okay. And so what we do is we have to determine this number, and to make it easy for the pilot, what we do is first we put all these numbers in zero. Let's say, okay, autopilot does not work. Then slowly we're gonna try to work the portion of the autopilot that does wing leveling. So, okay, let's increase this number, or this K, we call it K proportional.
Okay, that's the first section.
That's the first one. So we look at the roll here. It says K proportional, meaning how much input is going to that.
Okay.
And we don't mix them, because if you mix the heading and the wing leveling, then it becomes difficult to know what's going on. So first we just do one at a time.
Okay. So we disable the heading.
Yeah, we do have a way to disable the heading. Let's disable here the heading. And we make sure there is a zero here. We disable the
K integral.
The K integral.
So these two numbers on the right should be zero for heading and also for altitude.
Exactly. Yes. We will disable also the altitude K proportional and the K integral.
Okay. And what do we put on the roll and pitch?
Okay, on the roll and the pitch, you can start with zero if you like, but we like to have some number already to start working with. You can put a 20 on the K proportional.
Okay, so if I click on the plus and minus, I can adjust this. I'm going to put a 20 in here.
Let's start with 20, yes.
Maximum roll angle.
The maximum roll angle is the angle that the autopilot will work when it's making a turn. Normally, we'll do 30 degrees or 25 degrees. It's up to you. I would put 25 to start with, being a little bit...
Okay. Auto-tune roll.
We don't touch the auto-tune roll.
Okay, and then for pitch?
For pitch, we also do the same. We will start with a small number like 20.
Okay.
Pitch being more susceptible, you can do 20. Maybe you can do 10, but 20 is good enough.
Maximum pitch angle?
Maximum pitch angle on the pitch is more delicate, so normally we do 15 degrees maximum.
Okay.
We don't want it to stall the airplane.
And do not touch the auto-tune pitch?
The auto-tune don't touch because the airplane will do things.
Okay. So everything else is in 0.
Okay. And now we can go fly with these numbers. Are you ready?
I'm ready. So what should I be expecting when I go fly?
When you go fly, of course, take off with the switch off. Servo power off always. This is your normal operating procedure. Switch off the autopilot. Make sure that nothing is interfering with your normal flight. Go fly, get some altitude. And now when you are at some altitude, you like to start testing the number of wing leveling. Of course, wing leveling means we want to level the wing. Also, we want to level the tail too. So what we do is the first thing is when we are ready, we put our hand on the stick, and then...
I think we have to cage first.
Oh, of course, we have to
Yes.
cage. Yes. One thing that very important, and it's the horizon and the installation of the iLevil has to be calibrated, because you may have installed the iLevil a little bit crooked, things not perfect, so we like to calibrate first the iLevil.
Right. So the autopilot is going to try to keep you level, but if your level is not level,
Yeah,
it's
it's going to try to keep you crooked as the level. So the first thing is we have to level and calibrate the horizon on the autopilot. How do we do this?
I know how.
You do?
I know.
Okay, you program that, so you should know.
So we call it caging, cage the horizon. So to cage the horizon, you're gonna go to menu on the app and device configuration. It's gonna ask you for a password, which is technically your serial number. So just input the serial number. In this case, my serial number is AP because this is a test unit. And then you have access to your configuration page. And there's a big button here that says cage, roll pitch adjustment cage. Click on that and it's gonna say cage successful. Only hit that button when your airplane is trimmed for level flight.
Trim is flying at cruising speed, because that's where you're going to test your autopilot. So you like to have the caging done at cruising speed and everything trim and everything working and a smooth air. You don't want a cage on a bumpy air because the caging is not done very accurately.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I take off, trim my airplane, cage.
Cage, okay. And now we check to see if we are caged. Are we caged?
Well, I'm gonna go back to EFIS.
Look, we're caged.
And we are caged.
Okay.
So now we're flying perfectly. And now let's test the wing leveling option. So what do we do now?
First, before we do any test of the wing leveling, we like to set the altitude pressure,
the altimeter
setting. The altimeter setting, yes. So
let's say we are at 30.02.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Minus 10, I think it's a little more than that.
Well, let's say we are at
30.07.
Okay, 40 feet.
We got it. We're 45 over here, so I'll take this one. Okay, so we have the altimeter set. We have to set the altimeter because the iPad will transmit the pressure altitude to the eye level. So it has to compensate for any deviations on pressure, and that way you can get a good altitude following on the eye level. Otherwise, it'll follow pressure altitude at 2992. That doesn't work very well. Okay.
So we caged, we set the altimeter setting.
Exactly.
What now?
Very simple. Now we have to test the wind leveling. We like to do the roll wind leveling first.
Okay.
It's very simple now. We go to the Autopilot window and we click on heading. Just click on heading here. And the Autopilot servo will activate. Remember to turn on the Autopilot power, the servo power. Otherwise, it won't move and you won't feel anything. Now what it should be happening is the airplane should be level with the horizon here. And if you put a stepping pulse on the stick or just move the stick to one side, the airplane should come back to level. So
I apply a force and it's going to try to keep me level.
It's going to try to do that. Now, we can now go to our window where we have the K-roll proportional that we started at 20. We set it up on the ground. We started at, so if everything goes as predicted, we should have the airplane leveling slowly but surely on a stable direction. If you go to one side, the airplane doesn't continue going, it just comes back. Okay. Now we should increase this number slowly. You can increase it maybe every 10, put a 20, a 30, a 40, a 50. So we'll increase the number with the plus sign to 30 perhaps, and try it again. To the left and to the right. Make sure that both sides work. Sometimes the trim tab does better on one side than the other. So make sure you do this on both sides so to make sure that the airplane is responding well. Of course, we did test the flying capabilities before this test, so the airplane should respond correctly.
Okay. How fast should it come back? Like, let's say I put a 45-degree input. How fast is the response?
It depends on the airplanes. On an aerobatic airplane, this is going to be fast. It's going to come back fast. On a ultralight, it's going to come back slow. It's normal.
But what is 1 minute to come back, or 2 seconds to come back?
No. It's usually we time it like 1 or 2 seconds maximum. Okay. It's a normal flying, like you tilt the airplane 30 degrees and it should come back within 1 second.
Okay.
2 seconds if it's still the number is low. Then you increase the number so you can see how it comes back faster.
When is too much? Like
too much is when it comes back and it goes to the other side. Like you go to a big number. Let's say we put 100, and it's too much. The airplane will come back and it'll sort of a little bit oscillate a little bit, and then it'll stabilize.
Okay.
If you put a too bigger number, it'll remain oscillating all the time. And if you put a too biggest number, it'll go crazy. Like this, and the oscillation will increase.
Okay.
It's a this is a normal response for an automatic system. So
we adjust this number so that it comes back, but we don't want any oscillation whatsoever.
We don't want oscillation. Just come back. You can overdamp if you want a little bit. Come slow, but no oscillation is what we're looking for.
Okay. So once I'm satisfied with my roll, K proportional.
Yeah, we'll do the pitch.
We'll do the pitch.
Same idea.
I put some forward force.
Exactly, forward or aft, and it should come back. Normally forward, it looks better because you come back.
Okay.
But you can also go up, and it should come back to level at a certain speed, and again 1 second, 2 seconds, and until you get it that you don't get oscillation. If you do get oscillation, then you'll be flying like this.
Okay. Okay, and that's it. That's the wing leveler.
That's a wing level. If you manage that, the airplane should be able to fly nicely. Okay. And And
So then we test the heading functionality. I think at this point I should go to Autopilot and turn it off, correct?
you can do that, or you can simply leave it on and increase the heading slowly. It's
No. And I'll tell you what, because I did, when the first time I tried the calibration instructions that I was writing, I did that. I did not turn it off, and I started increasing or enabling the heading K proportional, and the airplane was doing all sorts of things because I hadn't set a heading yet.
Oh, okay.
So
you have to set the heading.
So listen to me, not to him. At this point, after your wing leveling, turn it off. Autopilot off, and now you can enable the heading. So you can, since you're in this window, select a heading that you want. So let's say we're flying at 240, select 230, or select 240. Same heading that you're flying at, and go to settings, go to your heading, and now we enable the heading by increasing the K proportional.
Exactly.
How much should what's the number that I should use?
A good rule of thumb is to put the same number as you got on the K proportional for the roll. If you got there maybe 45, you can start doing 45 on the directional K factor.
Okay, so I'm gonna put, we have a 20, so I'm gonna leave a 20 in there. And what's this K integral?
The K integral is a small correction that the autopilot will do to cancel any errors the airplane have. Like the airplane may be flying crooked because of bad trimming, or the caging wasn't done correctly, or there are little things, or somebody moved in the airplane the baggage from one side to the other, or whatever. The airplane will, the autopilot will try to correct for those small deviations. So the K factor is just, you put a number. Usually we start with 100, but we can do that after we do the.
I'm gonna put a 50 in here.
Okay, you can put 50. Actually, this number doesn't affect too much on the heading direction. It just corrects it very slowly.
Okay.
Unless you put a too big a number.
So at this point, I have 20, I have 50 on my K integral, and I go back and activate my heading.
Yes.
And once I do that, the airplane is gonna try to follow 240.
Yes.
I can try and change my heading to 200, and the airplane should follow 200.
Exactly. The airplane will tilt with a maximum tilt of the maximum tilt angle. And it should turn until you reach your heading, and it comes back.
Okay. If it doesn't, then I can increase my K proportion.
It's again the same idea. You like to increase it until you get too much deviation. Too much deviation means oscillation. You start chasing the number rather than staying at one heading. So when that happens, you have to go back a little bit.
Okay. One of the things, I'll share a little bit of my experience when I was doing this. My EFIS display was set on magnetic heading. And so when I was testing the heading, it was, I had set it to 240, let's say, and it was staying at 230. It wouldn't go to the number. And what was happening is that my magnetic heading was saying 230, but my GPS track was saying 240. And so the autopilot follows the GPS track, correct?
Yes, the autopilot follows GPS track, so your magnetic heading will be different than your tracking if you have crosswinds and all this.
Right, so when you're testing this, make sure you go to settings, and for heading source, click here on GPS track. That way, when you're looking at the rows, this will be a GPS track information versus magnetic, and you can see what the autopilot is actually tracking. That's one thing that happened to me that may happen to somebody out there. The same with the altitude. You can go to heading here, settings, and altitude speed source. Make sure you're on pitot static. That way you're seeing when you're following the altitude, this information is driven by your pitot static system versus your GPS.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we got wing leveling, we have heading.
Now we're flying to a heading.
And the only thing that we're missing is altitude. Exactly.
Now the altitude is something similar as we did with the heading. We go to the altitude. You're gonna turn it on. Oh no, you wanna put the numbers first before you put it.
Let's, should we?
No, okay. We can go.
Okay, we're gonna put an altitude. Usually the altitude that we're flying at.
Exactly. We don't want to put a different one. We just, if we're flying at 4,000, put 4,000.
4,000 feet, apply.
So now we have 4,000 showing. We like to stay at 4,000 and
the vertical speed indicator.
Very important. You can leave it at 500. 500 is okay.
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 And now we enable the altitude by going into our settings, heading, and then altitude. K proportional. What do we put the same thing as the pitch?
Well, not on this one. I will start with 20.
20. Okay, we'll leave it at 20. All of this is in the installation guide.
Yes.
Anyway, we're going step by step, and we take our time. But on the installation guide, you have bullet points to exactly what numbers you should be putting in here before flight and during the flight. So make sure you go into the website and download the pilot's. It's the pilot's user guide. There's two: the installation guide that goes over the trim tab installation, and then the pilot's guide goes over the app and all that. Okay, so back to altitude. I put a 20 in there, and on the integral,
you can also start with a 50.
Okay, let's put 50.
Again, the integral is to make sure that your flying altitude matches what you chose. And it doesn't do it fast. It's also slow for a few minutes of flight. If you're flying like 100 feet over the set altitude, then you will see how it slowly goes into the altitude you chose.
Okay. So that's enabled. Now we go back to our autopilot interface and turn on altitude. At this point, the airplane should reach.
The airplane should maintain the altitude because you're supposed to be at 4,000 feet.
And then so we test. We want to go to 4,500.
Exactly.
Change the altitude, and it's going to try to climb.
The airplane will try to climb.
Okay. If the K proportional is too small, it won't get there, or it will oscillate.
Well, same thing. If you see that the autopilot, it doesn't quite climb because it's lagging. It's lagging like 200 feet because it doesn't quite reach the altitude. Then you have to increase that K proportional for the altitude slowly until you see that the autopilot reaches that altitude without oscillation. If it goes up and then it starts chasing, it's too much. Okay. It should just go up slowly and level off, and that's it.
Okay. And at that point, we're done.
Yeah, we're flying. Now we have to choose. But no, we have to tell the guys how we do navigation.
Oh, yes. Okay, so with the Levil app, you can do heading, following, and altitude, climb and descend, and autopilot on and off, and trimming your airplane. You can also do flight following if you have a navigation app. So if you have a subscription with iFly GPS from Adventure Pilot, they provide all the waypoints. So you create a flight plan on your app, and if the iLevil is receiving that flight plan, you're gonna see right under heading.
I'm gonna turn on my my iFly GPS over here.
My dad is gonna make a flight plan on iFly GPS.
And I'm just gonna say that I wanna go somewhere.
Let's go to the Bahamas.
The Bahamas, yes. And
because it's way too hot in here. So well, Bahamas would be even hotter.
Even hotter, but we got the beach. And we go, and I just activated a flight plan.
To where?
Dylan.
Dylan.
Not the Bahamas.
Oh, okay. So if you see, if you see on our iPad now, this little window on the bottom left appears. It says nav, and it has the flight plan that Ruben created on his phone. So his phone is communicating with the iLevil, sending the waypoints, and the iLevil is communicating with the iPad, saying, I have a valid flight plan. If you click on nav, you're gonna see that the heading turns off, nav turns on. So now the autopilot is gonna try to follow that flight plan using whatever altitude you're set up here.
We're moving.
So yeah, as long as you have iFly and you have it set up so that it outputs the NMEA protocol for waypoints, you will see the flight plan or the navigation feature here to activate it. So you do need an iPad with our app for all the autopilot controls. And if you want to do navigation, you can do iFly. The iLevil also has a serial input. So if you have a navigation device like a Garmin 430 or something that outputs NMEA waypoints, you can wire it to the iLevil, and the iLevil will follow that. It will still appear here. You click on nav, and the iLevil will follow your flight plan from your installed avionics.
Yeah, you can also do a Navigator on Android.
You can also do Navigator on Android.
You have Navigator on one side, you have the iLevil on the other side, and it flies really nice.
Mm-hmm. So, okay, let's just do a quick summary because this was a complicated video. On the ground, disable heading altitude by setting the K proportional to 0 or clicking the disable button. Just make sure K proportional is in 0. Step number 2, go fly, trim the airplane for level flight, and click cage. So that levels out the. Step number 3, set your altimeter setting to your current altimeter setting. Step 4, put 20 on the roll proportional.
On the K proportional for roll.
And activate heading.
Okay.
Test the wing leveling capabilities on roll. Put 20 on the K proportional for pitch. Test the capabilities on the pitch. Make sure it doesn't oscillate.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, you got everything right.
And then turn off autopilot. Put a desired heading, and increase the K proportional for the heading. Make sure that the airplane follows the heading, it doesn't oscillate. Then select an altitude, go to the settings and increase the altitude K proportional. Verify, activate altitude, verify that the airplane descends or ascends. And that's it.
That's it.
Yay. Okay.
Go fly.
Okay.
Now the Bahamas.
And yeah, go to the Bahamas, away from Florida, because as you can see, it's way too hot in here. Ruben, one question that we get is, does our autopilot have rudder capabilities, rudder movement?
Well, at the beginning of the development, there was a debatable question, but at the moment we did not include rudder movement.
Okay.
In the future we may, but there's something else, see how many pilots will want this third axis working. And
okay, so 2 axis.
At the moment, 2 axis, that's what we did. It works really nice. And
okay. the only thing left to describe is our little AP controller, which for those people that ask me all the time, if I don't want to use an iPad, what can I do? This is our solution. It basically does the same functionality on the iPad to turn on heading, do altitude descent, trim your airplane, and it's a wire connection. This goes directly to the DB15 on the iLevil, and you can use it simultaneously with an iPad, so you don't necessarily have to use this or that. I can, do all my navigation here, but this makes it easier if you don't want to do touch interface. You have a heading bug and an altitude bug here. You can find the Levil controller on our website, shop.levil.com. You can also find the iLevil AP there. We do sell the bundles, the trim tab bundles and the iLevil on the website. You can also make your own, or you can buy them from Aircraft Automation. And that's it. I hope this video was helpful. It answered lots of your questions, but if you do have more questions, please email us or contact us or put comments below, and we'll try to accommodate all your questions. Anything you would like to add?
Oh no, I think
send us videos if you're using an autopilot on your airplane. We would love to see those photos or videos. Tell us your experience. And we hope you enjoy and you have a safer flying from now on.